Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's On the Sofa. So me tonight standing in for Chris. Chris, as well as the almost full-time job of chairing the Supporters Club, also has responsibilities at the Wytham Theatre, and she's there tonight at an event for Liverpool legends, which includes a certain Steve McMahon as well. So I'm standing in tonight. So in terms of tonight's programme, we've got two sections. First of all, we're really delighted to have Shane Hewlett from the fantastic SFC Community Foundation on with us this evening. And Shane's going to be talking about some of what's going on through the summer, which is plenty, as you can imagine. So Shane's going to be with us initially very shortly. And then we're going to have a panel following on from that, just to predominantly focus on the retained release list that we've seen over the last week or so. So the only thing I just wanted to mention, actually, before bringing Vic on, was just to draw your attention again to the charity shirt raffles that have been going on. So we've already raffled off Ollie Clark and Jamie Knight-LaBelle shirts. And at the moment in process is the Aaron Drinan version. So that raffle's ongoing. So the socials have got the link for that you can pick up if you haven't already seen it. And I think the club have put it out on their socials again today as well. So £1 to go basically for the tickets for the chance to win at the moment Aaron Drinan's shirt from the Accrington Stanley game. So I'll bring Vic on. Good evening, Vic.
Evening, Ray. Hope you're well.
Yeah, all good, thank you. Yeah,
good. Yeah. And I should mention that Harry Smith's birthday today. You saw him at the start of the programme. 31 years of age, born the 18th of May, 1995, and he will feature, of course, in our discussion about the retained list because, as we know, he signed a new contract at Swindon Town. So, a very happy birthday to Harry Smith.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Vic. Okay, I'll bring Shane on because I know Shane's up against the timeline. So, yeah. Evening, Shane.
Are you there? You okay?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. I'll leave you in Vic's capable hands.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Shane, for joining us. I mean, I don't want to embarrass you, but we've already got loads of messages, like this from Roman, who says, very lucky to have this guy.
Sorry, Vic. I can't actually hear you at my end at the moment, if that's okay. I can't actually hear you speaking.
Oh, can you not hear me at all?
I can hear you, Vic, so I'm not sure what's going on there, Shane. Can you hear me, Shane?
No, by the look of it, he can't, which is a real shame because he's there. Look, we can see him. Have you got us yet? Can you hear us? And Rob is telling us that he can hear all of us. So, yeah, I'm not sure it's your end, Shane. Do you want to log out and log back in again, Shane? Although there's no point in me telling you that because you can't hear us. No, you can't hear anyone. I tell you what. Can you log him out, log him in again, Ray? And then we'll just, I was going to tell him all the embarrassing messages we've got for him when he came on. But...
Let me just mute and unmute.
Just bear with us a minute and we'll try to get this sorted out as soon as possible. Just to say that we'll talk later on about the retained list, who's coming, who's staying, all that kind of thing, who's been offered new contracts, who's got contracts, and tell you who's still under contract, all that kind of thing. Can you hear us, Shane? Oddly, he could hear us earlier, couldn't he? So I'm not quite sure what's happened there. Yeah.
Just a minute. I'll. Okay. Yeah. So I've that's logged Shane out. Hopefully, we'll come back in. Yeah.
Vagaries of modern science, eh? Who knew?
That's very strange because right up to a moment ago, we could talk perfectly. So.
Yeah, we could. We're having a long chat before the start of the programme. So as we've got him for a limited time, let's hope we can get him back again.
Can you hear us now, Shane?
I can hear you now. All good.
Brilliant. Excellent. Yeah. Right. I was about to embarrass you, actually, because we got loads of comments. This is from Roman. Very lucky to have this guy working and managing for the benefit of all.
Vic, really sorry. The moment you done something differently then, I can't hear you again. I could only hear you when you were with the other person. Don't know what's going on this evening.
Ray, do you want to be present?
So you'll might be other people to hear, but I can't.
Shane, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Try again, Vic.
And can you hear me? Yeah, I will do. Right, we'll try this for the third time. You can't. Oh well, Not sure.
Which was
You can
quite
hear-
bizarre because I could hear you at the start when you come in, Vic, and then as soon as something changed or it clicked back to you, I lost you again.
Vic, if you want to keep your questions simple, I'm happy to repeat them.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's just to say we got lots of comments. I think it's fair to say saying how positive it is, the Community Foundation. So
Yeah.
everybody's happy with it. Do you want to repeat that?
Yeah. Vic was just saying, Shane, how many comments there are and how positive they are about the foundation. So just wanted to share that with you up front.
Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Obviously not a tech expert, but yeah, we don't do a bad job in terms of the Community Foundation. And I think that's the thing we try to do. And we're all Swindon fans. I love the football club, and if I wasn't head of the foundation, I'd be on the terraces and I'd be home and away, just as a normal fan as well. And I think that is something we try and embed across the whole organisation. And every member of staff we've got, we're at every home game, and a lot of them are travelling all over the country as well to watch the town as well.
Let's talk about the CFAR success against Manchester City in the Championship this season. What a wonderful season you've had.
Yeah. So again, Shane, if you couldn't hear that, Vic was just bringing up the wonderful success against Manchester City and the season that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, the college program's gone from strength to strength, and what we've managed to do over the last couple of years is really develop our girls' talent pathway, and then to go up to last week to go up to Shrewsbury and beat Manchester City to be crowned national champions is, absolutely fantastic. It's a great achievement, and just goes to show kind of in a small town like ours in Swindon, we can go and mix it with the best. And not just that, but that success was replicated by the boys as well. The boys play in a division that hosts the likes of Chelsea Foundation and Brentford and Fulham, and they've just topped their league, and the seconds have just won their league as well, and that again against Chelsea Bees and against Fulham Bees, Brentford Bees. So we've just had a phenomenal season, and next week on Monday actually, all of the teams will be represented. So Swindon are going to Wembley on the 25th, and 71 students will be on the pitch in the League Two playoff final, which will get our awards. So yeah, not quite what we wanted to in the first team, but certainly from our college perspective, we're just absolutely delighted.
And how will this help the football club? Will many of those go on to get into the youth scheme?
Yeah. So Vic was just querying how this may impact the football club, Shane, in terms of will any of those go on to get involved in the youth scheme?
Yeah, so we've just had a young boy. We've got some really good links with the academy this year, right the way down from our sevens boys up to 16s, and then our college program and girls as well. Obviously, if we just talk about girls first, obviously Elise Clayton's progressed through to the first team this year. She had an amazing season, hat-trick that she scored against Man City. But many of our girls have been on the periphery of that or in the development squad this year. So, we're really hopeful that loads of them can support ladies as they go into Tier 3 for only the second time in their history. And then in the boys program, we've got a young lad in our college program that's been training with the club, scored 2 last week, made 2 in his first game for them, and looks like most likely he's going to sign for them. And right the way down, we've got 6 boys have left our elite centres this week and last week to go and train with the academy. So really good links between the foundation and ultimately, Vic, Ray, I want our boys and girls to play for Swindon. Whether that's ladies, whether that's men, I'm not breeding players to go and play for Manchester City women. I'm breeding players that will go and develop our own ladies team and help our ladies team get to the best league. And it's the same with the men's. We sadly in League Two, you've got clubs all around us like Bristol City, Rovers and all teams, Oxford United, that both of those last two are sadly, don't want to say it, are above us in league. So we want to make sure that we develop young players and talented players that eventually go on and play for Swindon. That's our ultimate aim.
I've got a question here from Mike Dixon. He says, "Oh, hang on, where is it? If it's just dropped out here." Could you ask if there are any particular areas Shane has been keen to develop further since he took on the position from John Holloway? So, any more development?
Yeah. So, Shane, this was a question from Mike Dixon. Were there any areas you particularly were keen to develop, having taken the role on from John Holloway?
Yeah, so I haven't lost John completely. You can let Mike know. So John's moved, so he actually resides in Wales now, but still working for the foundation as director. And when we'd made that decision that he was going to move on, we sat down and thought, well, actually, what does the next year, 18 months look like? So much has been done. Obviously, we've got the development of the new dome that come in this year. We built the amazing John Trollope statue. We're so super proud of that. So much work and effort and fundraising went into that, and I'm sure if you've seen it, and we get so many supporters on match day that come to see it. New canopies, new developments to the pitch, new scoreboard. So lots have happened. But I think probably if you're going to ask me our long-term plan and our next vision is that we basically run out of space. We've got so many sessions, so many groups, so many teams. Mental health group, disability, healthy eating programs. There's so many that we probably need a new facility alongside it. So we are looking tentatively at the moment at planning for another dome next to our current dome.
Wow.
So very much in the early stages at the moment, but watch this space. Hopefully, that'll be something that really will enable us to kind of, go again to another level. So yeah, in the pipeline, but certainly a lot of work and a lot of work with the council to speak to them about that. But certainly if you know John and you know me, it'll happen at some point.
It will, yeah, absolutely. Nick says, do you think the lack of youth players being retained this season will affect the future success of his schemes?
Yeah, so the next question was around the club's decision to release a lot of the youth product, and do you think that'll have any impact back on what you guys do?
Yeah, I mean it's always disappointing when that happens. I know particularly Harrison Minton, obviously going to be staying in training. Harrison's been, hugely instrumental in what we do at the foundation. He's out there this evening, coaching our young players. He's been an absolute legend, really, in terms of his professionalism, being a local boy. And I know things are really, really tough at the moment. So yeah, it's super disappointing. Hopefully, with a new academy manager in place, with a new system in place, that that next year we won't be seeing all of our young players moving on, because ultimately if we aren't producing players that will go on like Harrison and play for the first team, then the likelihood is they're going to go elsewhere. So yeah, if you ask me if it's going to impact it, yeah, it certainly will do. And I think that's something that the club will have to look at their long-term plan for the youth team. And I know the gaffer spoken about an under-21s program is absolutely instrumental, that players like Harrison and players at that level in the youth team, the young players that were brought on loan get the opportunity to play regular football, because otherwise it's such a gap between not playing in training and then suddenly being thrust into the first team and expecting you to produce top performance. That just doesn't happen. So hopefully the club will get that right, and that will be something that we might be looking at in the future. And then obviously that will give the youth an opportunity and a pathway.
Yeah.
Now you're about 7:25. We're going to lose you because you're out doing something else. What are you doing tonight?
Yeah, so Vic was just reminding us that we're going to lose you about 7:25 this evening because you're out doing something else. So he was just asking you to share what you're up to this evening.
So tonight, JPL trials. So this is for our girls program under 16s. So we've got a current ETC, which is an emerging talent centre. So that's run by professional clubs all up and down the country. But we wanted just to take it a step further. We wanted to develop a team that plays weekly, that will then go on and play into our college program. We've winning against Manchester City over the last 2 years is taught us that we need to move up a level. So we've gone up a level in women's football now at college program level. So that'll be in women's tier Premier 2, which means we're going to need to have and develop, players and have a little bit more contact time with them. So yeah, we've got just over, I think, nearly 60 girls this evening trialing for just 20 places. So yeah, some tough decisions this evening. But hopefully, we'll get a really good group to perform for us next year.
And do you make those decisions tonight? Do you tell them tonight, or does it take a couple of days?
So yeah, so that do you actually make those decisions tonight, or does that come out over the next few days?
Yeah, over the next few days. We're moving into trial season. So tonight we've got 6, 7 members of staff. We'll assess all the girls in terms of technical ability, in terms of matches, and then what we'll do. It's really important when you're a community foundation. Although we've talked a lot about elite, we're also mainstream. So we're also about football for everybody. So all of these girls, irrespective of what happens, will be offered some kind of place, whether that's in a JPL team, whether that potentially could be in the lower tier ETC team or development or a player development center. We're not about saying no, we're about developing players. So it will be tough decision to choose the group that maybe become the JPL team, but that's right the way across Vic and Ray. Our job is to not say no. Our job is to engage and try to get as many children playing football, playing sport, being healthy, because ultimately we want them to go on and support Swindon as well. We want them to be in the first club. So, we know how difficult it is when players get letters and emails out saying that they haven't been accepted, but what we try and do is try to offer, we'll be certainly offering all these girls a place in our pathway, whatever level we see. And then of course then it becomes down to the individual, the player and the parent decide whether they want to take those places.
What else is happening? I mean, it's not just that, there's a myriad of other things. What else is happening this summer?
Yeah, so what else is happening across the summer? So we know there's quite a bit going on.
Yeah, so we've got obviously after the trial period, we've got holiday camps we're running. So we've got just over 200 on holiday camps next week. We've got a disability event that we're going to be running with the supporters club and the trust that we've been working with. We've got 1,000 children will be heading here over the summer, and we'll also be running camps at Bryce Norton. We're running camps at Marlborough College. We'll be running camps at the Agriculture College in Cirencester. So there's loads and loads going on, and in between all that, obviously making sure that we start prepping up for our new season. Thinking lots of things. We're launching we've got a new program working with children about healthy eating that are at risk of obesity. So we're working in schools in Swindon. And we've also, applied for funding to run our hugely successful Project Me, which is our working with children with mental health in schools. So, probably from any supporter listening this evening, we talked a lot about, said it before, elite programs, but really that's just 15% of the makeup of what our foundation do. It's about making sure we give everybody the opportunity to play across those 4 strands: health, education, social inclusion, sports participation. And very much it's about the 3,500 children and participants that we make contact with every single week.
Do you get a holiday?
Do you get a holiday?
Yes, but I still don't switch off. Me and John are very much the same. So I'm on holiday, but I can't help but just double check how things are going. So but we do get a holiday. The guys work really hard. But I think the thing is, and this is the same in any job, I love what I do. I've been at the club for over 25 years, and before that, I've worked at different roles within the club and other roles, and I absolutely love it. I love the football club. It pains me sometimes when we lose games, and I'm sure I'm the same as anybody on here that listening. When we lose, it ruins my weekend. But I think the same for John and the same for all our staff. We all just love what we do, and when you love what you do, then it's a lot easier to do a job. And we're super fortunate to be doing what we're doing. So I get paid to go and watch my football club play each week as well, which is an added bonus.
Lots of comments which we'll pass on to you. We're going to pass the comments on to you, but Michael says, top man Shane, changing lives in fit programs. And then another question, does Clem get involved to support you guys?
So Michael said, top man Shane, with the work you do and particularly fit program, I think he was referring to. But there was another question also came in, I think, from Tony. Good evening, Tony. Whether Clem Mulfooney gets involved with you guys.
In terms of involvement, and what I would say about Clem, nothing negative in terms of ours. Clem lets us get on with what we do. In terms of working with the club, relatively supportive. I think the big thing is, we're a registered charity. So like every community foundation up and down the country, we have, our own separate board of trustees. But we, ultimately we work with the club and best as we can. And our the best way to describe us would be that we're an extended arm of the club. So, our aim is to try and get out to the community. Player appearances are much better than they were last season. We certainly got the players out and about. But in terms of, Clem's support, I think ultimately we meet with them every year. We agree an SLA in terms of the programs that we want to work on. And we support the club with a variety of different activities on match day. That we run the ball staff, we run the mascot program, and ultimately for that we get opportunities to get tickets for our staff to be involved in the ground to work. So yeah, we do try to collab as much as we can, but the fact is we want the club to do well. And over the years, I don't know how many managers I've worked under, how many different chairmen have been involved. Whoever's in charge and whoever's running the club, our job is to do the best job we can for Swindon Town Football Club.
Ray, I don't know if you see the comments, Ray. Can you read that one from Spencer?
No, I can't. Sorry, Vic, I can't see them.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, these are similar. Rich has said he knows me and cares about my well-being, which I think is a lovely comment. Do you want to repeat that one?
Yeah. So Rich James had commented. It said that Shane knows me and he cares about my well-being, which is a nice message.
Yeah, I do. Tell Rich 100%. I do, Rich. Look after yourself.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to let you go in a minute, 2 or 3 minutes time, because I know you've got to get outside and do your stuff. But if there's one wish for the summer and for the season to come, what would you wish for, apart from promotion for Swindon Town, obviously? But what would be your wish for the next few months?
Yeah, so Shane, in terms of over the summer and leading into the new season, what would be your number one wish?
Oh, what a good question that is. Listen, ultimately, for us, we'll sit down with Vicky Alexander, who did a brilliant job with the club in terms of the supporters. We're working with the club on the ticket initiative and to make sure that we can get into schools next year. And also, as well as us being successful, it does make a difference for a foundation if the club's doing well as well. And I'm a supporter, so ultimately it'd be lovely to go into the new season with a really strong side that's going to be competitive and hopefully get us out of that league, which would be great. And from our perspective, we want to be running a good, successful holiday camps, make sure that they all run smoothly, everybody's safe, and we want to keep growing as an organisation. And as you've seen at Foundation Park, with graft and hard work, it's clear you can get really good results. And we've been super fortunate to have support from Nigel Eady and from the Supporters Club and from the Trust. And, so it's been a real journey we've been on for the last 7 years. So my wish would be that we have a competitive squad on the pitch, supporters coming and supporting the club and us having the opportunity to go out and promote for that. And obviously, from our own perspective, just make sure that we're successful and, we continue to grow.
Well, I think we'll finish with this message from Mike Smith. He says, Shane is an absolute legend, really inspiring guy. I think that's a comment to put to him, Ray. And just that we will be passing all these comments on because they are really good. Excellent comments. So if you want to pass that one on, and I'll give my great thanks for joining us and let him get outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Shane, we just want to pass one more comment on to you, which is from Mike Smith, which was along the lines of Shane is an absolute legend, really inspiring guy. And to that, we'd also like to add our thanks very much to you this evening for joining us, and keep going on what you do. There's no shortage of work going on over there. So it is inspiring what you guys do. And we, through the OSC, we do have links at various times, and it's obvious that everybody all the way through really cares about what they're doing. So massive thank you to you tonight. Yeah,
and Ray, Vic, sorry I haven't been able to hear you, but ultimately it's always a privilege to come on and work with you guys. Just love working and speaking to Swindon fans that care, is passionate about our club. And Vic, and don't go unnoticed your journey that you make every single week to support this football club. And so you're just as passionate. And if we get as many people like that supporting the club and being positive, then we'll get to the promised land one day.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Shane. All the best.
All right. Brilliant, Shane. Thank you very much.
Cheers. You take care. Good night.
And you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Well, he is an inspiring man. He makes you feel inadequate. When you're talking to him, because you think, boy, oh boy.
Yeah, unbelievable. We should probably explain for anyone that's just joined.
Yeah,
we have a problem where Shane could hear me, couldn't hear Vic, hence the relaying of questions. I have actually worked with translators quite a bit over the years, but I've never done Devon to Swindon.
It's a bit like two-way family favourites, that wasn't it? Sort of the Cologne, very strange. But anyway, we got there in the end, which is the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, then, if we bring panel on. So good evening, Rob.
Evening.
Can you hear me?
I'm sure he said something, Ray, but I couldn't quite catch it.
And good evening, Andrew. Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear me too, Mr. Hawes?
I can, yes. All is well.
Marvellous. You both know Shane Hewlett. I mean, I fall down in admiration for the bloke and what they do over there, Rob. I mean, you've known them over the years, haven't you, with John Holloway and people like that? They're extraordinary, aren't they?
Absolutely. There's no more positive words that I've heard from anyone from Swindon than what Shane has come out with tonight, and that just basically is exactly what we all aspire to, isn't it? I mean, I've known him since my young boys were probably about 5 when they went to the commutes football in the community, and Shane was there then. So best part of 20 years, and that only that's a pale shadow based on what he does now. I mean, he was working his proverbials off at that point in time, and you think how that's grown since then, and the work that the foundation has done, all the development that's gone on, and all of the teams he was talking about that they now run, and all of the other non-footballing stuff that, like keeping people fit and things like that he gets involved with, and all the work that they do with the disabled community and everything like that. It's just fantastic, and he's a real credit to the club, and it's just a shame that we can't clone him and put him in several different positions in the club as well.
Yeah, Andrew, you must have had a lot of dealings with him as well over the years, and the thing is that, some of us have barely got enough energy to make a second cup of coffee in the morning, but he kind of, it's just non-stop. I've never known anything like it. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's boundless. So I think he accidentally paid himself the best tribute by saying, basically, we've run out of room. We've done that much that we can't actually fit in everything we want to do. So what an achievement that is, apart from anything else. But I do think as I've aged, and this has got a bit grayer here, that the sort of importance of a club to its community has really kind of struck me home, and Shane does a brilliant job in kind of keeping those links really, really strong between Swindon and its football club.
Yeah, interesting. They were talking about another dome. I'm not sure where they put that other dome, but that'll be interesting to see it when it actually arises. I don't know where you'd put it really. But anyway, I don't know if you know anything more about that, Andrew. Do you? Have you heard?
I don't. I must admit, but the more the merrier, I think.
Yeah, quite right. Let's get on with the main business of the evening now. For the next half an hour or so, we're going to talk about the retained list. I know it's been out a couple of days now, but it's worth discussing. And once again, we'll say Harry Smith, happy birthday to him. 31 years of age today, born the 18th of May, 1995. And he, along with Ollie Clark, Tavazzoli and Lewis Ward, have signed new contracts. First of all, Ray, your view on that?
Yeah, subject to them having a bit more luck with injury in the season coming up, they are all people that I would have wanted to stay. Certainly, they do form like a strong backbone as well of that we can build around. So for me, I'm pretty pleased with it. I think the other thing that was, if I'm honest, was in the back of my mind is I think the manager got very frustrated in the latter part of the season, and if we're honest, we saw elements of that on like the presentation evening, and I was a little bit worried about how that had played out with the players, and what their desire to stay might be. If what we saw that evening was an indicator of the levels of frustration that were there, for reasons I understand. But it does appear that those guys, the experienced guys, are happy to continue that working relationship as well. So I kind of took a positive from that as well, and I'm kind of hoping that the summer break really gives in Holloway a chance to take some rest, to recover a bit and go again, kind of thing. But I was quite pleased to see that from that point of view as well, they were still up for sticking around. So it showed a sign of maybe some unity there.
Yeah, we should also say that Billy Kirkman's been offered a new contract. We'll go through it all with great detail in a minute. But what's your reaction, Rob, to those people that have re-signed.
Yeah, I'm pleased with a caveat, I think is probably the best description at the minute. I'm delighted that those players are prepared to commit themselves again to another season at this level. They all had their issues last year, though, didn't they? Harry Smith with injury, Ollie Clark with the unmentionables plus injury and suspension. And also Ryan Tafazoli doesn't seem to be able to play 2 games a week. So whilst you've got 3 players there who have undoubted quality and are probably on their day better than the level we're playing at, how many games a season are we going to get out of them? And that still is my one worry about the development of our squad over the course of the last few years, I guess, is that we do tend to bring into our squad a lot of players who are unproven. Maybe that's in terms of being able to put a whole season together. And I think that has let us down a little bit over the course of last year. There's obviously many reasons that we've tackled on several occasions on these panels as to why it didn't go in the way that we intended it to at the back end of last season, but that is definitely one of them. So there's a massive emphasis now on trying to get whatever players we've got in the building fit and ready to play 30 to 40 games a season minimum, I think. And obviously all 3 of those have just got something to prove there.
Yeah, that's the thing, Andrew, isn't it? You want a consistent team. I mean, I keep going on about Ardiles and 26, 27 games unchanged, but you know that it would be nice to see a Swindon team with 10 games unchanged at the minute, wouldn't it? Because of the reasons that we've explained. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, you have to assume, Touchwood, that if they're planning with some thought, they can't be expecting Tafazoli on his recent history to play 40 plus games a season. They must be thinking they can hopefully get 25 to 30 league games out of him and then see how they cover those. I think Clark got hit a bit more probably with suspension than injuries. The injuries sort of came more towards the end of the season. So I think you'd be hopeful you can get decent numbers out of him again. We hope all is well with Harry Smith. It's a little bit of a punt, but obviously we know how important he was. The season before last, as I guess we have to call it now. And Lewis Ward clearly fits in around the place. And they obviously decided that Redmond Evans hadn't progressed enough to seriously challenge. So yeah. But as long as those signings are made with the kind of understanding that you'll get hopefully that sort of good dressing room influence out of them, but they might not play more than 30 games each, then I think it makes sense.
Hi, Tony. What concerns me is with Big Knock going and no physio at the club, a new training regime, and that they don't get injured with hamstring and injuries. There is a new physio coming, I think, Andrew, isn't there?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, not too distant future. Yeah. Right. We've mentioned Billy Kirkman has been offered a new contract, invited back for pre-season training, but out of contract. Danny Butterworth and the aforementioned Harrison Minturn, who's helping with the community training and coaching tonight. Released Ryan Delaney, Will Wright, Jake Batty, Redmond Evans, Junior Hoylett, Billy Bowden, Jackson Brown, Danny Gonzalez Birchall, Anthony McCormick, and George Elston. Any surprises there, Ray, for you?
Not huge surprises. Probably Jake Batty was the one I queried in my own, my mind. But then you kind of think, well, okay, if they saw him as maybe an understudy or competition for somebody else they've got in mind, then you factor Billy Kirkman in. If Kirkman was to sign, he is probably gives you that cover anyway. So I can kind of get it, but I would have taken a punt on Jake Batty because he looks like he's got something to me. But again, you don't know the circumstance, from his own point of view, either salary and everything else. So so that was my one surprise. I was just thinking back actually, Vic, to the worries we've got with the injury of the guys' injuries. One of the things with Tafazoli, 2 of his injuries were bones. So he broke a rib and he broke an elbow. So they're in theory quite freak sort of occurrences, really. You'd hope that wouldn't be repeated next season.
Yeah, he probably like Sean Taylor-esque would have wanted to play on with it.
Yeah.
I said I broke an elbow. You mean my arm's fallen off? Not a problem, is it? Sean Platt echoes that. I thought Batty would have been taken on. What about those released then, Rob? Your thoughts on it?
Well, you always have to look at it and think that you have to do an element of planning here, don't you? And clearly the squad needs to evolve. And if the squad is to evolve, we all said at the back end of certainly during the season, we've got a lot of players here, an awful lot of players compared to what we've had in previous seasons. So it was inevitable, I think, that we would lose players. I totally get the sentiments that Ray's just expressed about Jake Batty, but I must assume that either they're confident Billy Kirkman's going to sign, or they've already got another left back in mind. I'm a little bit disappointed, more so because of the way his career at Swindon started with Will Wright. To be honest, I thought that's a player of real ability, and obviously there were things that went on off the pitch with him last season, and he fell down the pecking order with Ian Holloway. But there's a player in there, maybe not as an out and out centre back because he's not necessarily got those capabilities, but played in the right side in the right way. There's a real player there, and it's more a disappointment rather than a surprise that he's gone. I think it's because he just simply didn't fulfil the career at Swindon that we all hoped he would. And I guess I also got to add to that. It's horrible when you see all the kids get released. It really is, because you mentioned it with Shane a few minutes ago. It will have an impact at youth level. There's no doubt about that. People, mums and dads at youth level with kids of real prospects will look at that and say, well, Swindon aren't taking on any players when they get to 18, 19. So maybe we need to look elsewhere for our kiddies. And that, a lot of that, again, and we've lamented this on many occasions, this all boils down to the fact that there is no reserve setup at this level for me, or an under-23 team, or some description like that, where you just don't get that pathway between youth football and adult men's football. And you can all right send people out on loan to non-league clubs and check their progress and all that, but you're just not seeing them on a day-to-day basis then to see whether they can fit in. And that always frustrates me, I have to say, because we saw Ant McCormack for sure out of that list that you gave us in a couple of those games in the EFL Trophy a couple of seasons ago, and he looked a real prospect. Now, I'm not saying he's necessarily one to go straight into the first team, but you need to nurture players like that and bring them on and try and encourage them to be that find a first team mentor for them to try and replicate. And it just feels like we've waved goodbye this year to our youth setup, and that's disappointing for me, I have to say. I was hoping that there was some quality there that we might see in the coming years, but if they're not good enough, which is what the other equation, and if they are genuinely not good enough to challenge at first team level, then I totally get the reasons why you would want to make some space in the squad.
Yeah, Andrew, I think if you looked at those being released, Ryan Delaney is not a surprise, obviously, because he was told basically by Holloway that he didn't have a future in the setup. Jake Batty, I think people are surprised about. I guess, like Rob, I am a little disappointed for Will Wright because he seems a thoroughly decent chap. He's had off-the-field problems, as we know, in loss of his mother, etc. He is the one disappointment for me that he's not blossomed in the way we thought he might. Not last season, the season before.
Yeah, it is a bit sad. It's a bit frustrating, isn't it? But I think he might just be a bit of a victim of how the second half of the season unfolded, in that it sounds like from what he was kind of saying at the forum and implying more and more before the end of the season, we want centre-halves who are more big, ugly brutes who can defend first and then do the finesse later. And Will Wright's a bit the other way around, really, in that, a lot of his sort of good qualities were kind of on the ball. I'm not saying he couldn't defend, but he wasn't that real sort of kind of brick wall centre back. So perhaps that kind of leads to that. And I guess he wasn't an Ian Holloway signing going back to the St Mark Kennedy. I'm not saying the manager holds that against people, because clearly enough of those players have turned it round. But all in all, I think sort of frustrating but not entirely surprising does sum up, because clearly the defence was what didn't work to the greatest extent, conceded too many goals. So that's obviously the bit when you look at Wright and Batty going that he feels has to be the most substantially rebuilt.
Any whispers as to signings? Have you heard anything?
These have not crossed my path yet. So so far. So we'll have to. It has been pretty quiet on the rumour front. I guess it did take. It was a bit later for them than average to know what their division they're in. So perhaps that's kind of slowed things down a bit. I'm sure there will be names, and I'm sure there will be players in due course. But a few names are always welcome to keep us going until the World Cup, at least.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the World Cup. Oh yes. Let's have a look. Oh, Chris has just sent me a picture of what's going on in the Wyvern. I was just trying to recognise the Liverpool legends.
It's Ronnie Whelan, it's Steve McMahon, Ronnie Whelan, and John Barnes. That was how it was billed. Yeah.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, it's difficult to recognise them all, to be honest. Steve McMahon. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Yeah, what about the point that Rob made, the youth scheme, Andrew? Because Shane was saying about how they want to develop players to play for Swindon, and boy do they do some work. But what about the point that parents might not be attracted to come to Swindon?
Yeah. I think it's a concern, isn't it? And I think it's a little bit of a concern about how it's gone in this abrupt cycle with the youth team, where suddenly that FA Youth Cup quarter-final squad comes up. We get one regular first team player for that and sell 2 on, which has been important in generating money for the budget. And now that's come to a halt. It's all being kind of rebuilt by Tim Bell. It does sound good that there may be some sort of under-21s program or some sort of intermediate program, much as we all hanker after the days of the combination here. But it is a concern, I think, isn't it? I fear in our region, if we're brutally honest now, when you look at the success they've had, I would imagine that if someone's in Westbury and it's Swindon or Bristol City looking at you, that's probably, unfortunately, only one option, really. So we've got to clearly do something to get the youth system back to producing a stream of players, and hopefully that sort of branch. So root and branch stuff from Tim Bell does start, but it does strike me as a bit strange as it goes from, the youth system's great, it's going to be our future, to very suddenly, well, none of these are going to have an impact at first team level, and off they must go.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. Well, 1 minute Wright was captain, then he would miss out on the 18, and then he would start again. Felt like mismanagement to me. Wright has a lot of qualities, says Tony. Free kicks. Always thought he was reasonably good in midfield, good team member, and standing captain. I think we all remember that free kick against Reading, don't we, in the EFL Trophy? That was an absolute corker, wasn't it? And dare I mention it, he scored a goal in that game at Luton. Do you remember that one? It brought it back to 1 each, if I remember rightly. Although expunged from the records, he said, with no bitterness whatsoever. Loneys returning to parent club. Oh, on that point, Southampton. Here we are, 5 days away from a playoff final, Ray, in one of the biggest games in world football, most expensive game in world football. And I think they've concluded with investigation, but I haven't seen a result. I think the words Doc's breakfast comes to mind, doesn't it?
Yes. They actually said on the Southern, I get the Southern News here, they actually were expecting a decision tomorrow, but whether that decision would come out tomorrow, apparently they were going to the 2 legal teams first before getting the information out there as quickly as possible. But I think they've only got about 5 days anyway, haven't they? 4 or 5 days to the final.
Yeah.
So,
Rob, I mean, bonkers, isn't it? I mean, I heard somebody make the point yesterday that if you're a Middlesbrough / Southampton fan, train tickets, hotel bookings, all that kind of thing, what do you do?
Well, I mean, if you're going to go ahead with the game now, really, it should be delayed, because it's only fair for Hull, who've legitimately made it through, and they don't even know who their opponents are yet.
No.
So whilst you can do a little bit of training, obviously you can't plan for it. So, and all the people coming down from Hull will be completely inconvenienced, as you rightly say, one way or the other. I mean, if you think when you go back to what decisions should be made here, if you're a Swindon fan, it's blatantly obvious what decision should be made, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to be kicked out to make it consistent with what's happened to us over the course of this season. They're saying a sporting sanction if I was Southampton, I'd be very worried because there's Swindon influence in their camp. They've got Ben Garner on the coaching staff and Jack Stevens in the team. That therefore must mean they're going to get kicked out. It's got Swindon written all over it.
Yeah, I have heard Middlesbrough talking about us as well. So the point's not lost on them. Yeah.
I mean, Andrew, you've been in this position as a reporter. I mean, it must be a nightmare if you're working for Radio Solent or, Radio Tees. You're chasing around, aren't you? Making phone calls constantly, trying to find out what's going on, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very difficult, no matter how well connected you are, especially when your team has kind of partly admitted to the offence. At least, I think the one thing that strikes me as unsavoury about it, if I've read this right and if I've got my facts right, is the suggestion that Southampton have kind of left the quote spy unquote hanging out on his own a bit and not really kind of fronted up about it really, which is it's not great on a kind of intern who's not very good at hiding behind a tree, judging by the photos. if we're all honest, so I think that part of it's unsavoury. I did hear a suggestion of what would be quite a clever punishment would be to award the first leg to Middlesbrough 3-0. So you have a sporting sanction, but you don't have one that has a kind of really sort of perhaps long-lasting effect on Southampton, other than for this season, and then you can kind of get on with it and do the final with a clean slate, because it sounds like Middlesbrough have been training still in the hope that they can play it. So that would seem one way. But the trouble is for authorities kind of love precedent. They can go back and look at this and say, well, this happened before, blah, blah, blah. When they've got new stuff to deal with, sporting bodies, they're a bit like, well,
yeah.
I tend to go a bit like that, I always think.
I mean, if the picture is to be believed, it was the young chap with the baggy jeans, wasn't it? It was stood by
who bought a coffee there as well, apparently. So
that's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious in one way, but it's not in another. And you go back to Bielsa and Leeds United and Derby County, don't you? And the Frank Lampard situation a few years ago. Right, let's go back to what we're talking about. Returning to the parent clubs at the end of their loans, Jamie Knight-Labelle, Tom Wilson-Brown, Aidan Borland, Michael Olakigbe and James Scanlon. Out of those, Ray, which ones will we miss the most, do you think?
Jamie Knight-Labelle for me. Just he was quite consistent. He's pacey as well. And that's something we were lacking considerably without him. To be fair, Tom Wilson-Brown was pretty quick as well. But obviously we lost him for big chunks of it. So I think Jamie Knight-Labelle's the big loss. I'd have liked to have seen a load more of Olakigbe as well. I thought he had a lot to offer, and we didn't see him at the times we might have expected to see him, I felt, as well, in certain games.
Yeah. Rob, I think you'd probably go along with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Olakigbe, I think we've mentioned before, I think he was very underused. I think there were times in that last 10 games where we were crying out for him to be on the pitch. Accrington at home being the absolute obvious one when we really did need him on the pitch a lot earlier. And then ever we saw him. But Jamie Knight-Labelle came on leaps and bounds, didn't he, in terms of his performance level? Because there was a bedding in period for him. I think there's any doubts about that. The first few games he played, I think none of us were really sure about him. But from that point onwards, he really kicked on and became one of our most consistent performers. Tom Wilson-Brown, I think, might well be playing in League One next year. I think there's a good chance with Leicester's problems and all the financial implications that they've got, he might very well find himself in their team, I think, next season, unless something significant happens at that club. So I think he might land on his feet. I'm a little bit wary for Jamie Knight-Labelle, to be honest. I don't know if he's yet in a position where he'd be able to he'd be playing in Bristol City's first team. So he might well be looking out for another loan spell again. Well, I can think of a club he could come to, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a 3-year contract at City, hasn't it? I think he just signed a 3-year deal. So next year you would think is another development year on that. Adrian makes the point the season finished on deadline day transfers. I think we've talked about that before, Andrew, and I think Holloway has made that point, hasn't he? I mean, obviously, Finley Monroe. Let's leave that name there. Rich says, "Can we have Finley Monroe back?" Well, I don't know. Have you got spare 400, 500 grand around your mandatory that you can buy him back with?
I wish, but sadly not. But no, I do think it's an interesting point in the retained list that the ones who've been quickly persuaded to sign contracts are the old hands, and it's the younger ones by and large that have gone really. Plus a lot of the creative players really seem to have gone as well.
Yeah. What about those who have gone back? I mean, you probably agree on Jamie Knight-Labelle, wouldn't you? And I mean, Tom Wilson-Brown, he looked really useful, and then of course he picked up that injury, didn't he? So he was hampered a little bit by that.
Yeah. No, Knight-Labelle was good. I would imagine Bristol City wanted him at a League One club this season, having been at Crewe the sort of season before, but they couldn't get that. You'd be surprised to think that some club in League One wouldn't have a look at him and take him on loan this time. And I think Rob's logic is pretty spot on Wilson-Brown. So unlikely to see either of those back, I would suspect, which is a shame. But I would imagine we're going to have to look in the loan market at some point for centre backs to provide a bit of pace, really, and because we haven't got many of them under contract at the moment.
No, well, under contract. Ripley, Mbete, Ball, Nichols, Clark, Glatzel, Smith, Tabor, Ward, Tavazoli, Kilkenny, Snowden, Middlemass, Drynan, Holman, Palmer, McGregor, and Oldacre. Ray, your thoughts on those under contract, because they ain't going anywhere anytime soon, unless obviously somebody comes in with a big offer for Aaron Drynan, which wouldn't surprise any of us, I don't think, would it?
No. Yeah, I mean, generally the core of it is reasonable. I think you can make cases for people that maybe don't suit where we are at the moment, suit the style. I think Darren Oldacre comes into that kind of framework where depending on how we're going to play, and it maybe seems we're not going to go less direct. That you would argue maybe the system that won't suit Darren Oldacre next year. Then equally the Ollie Palmer situation, what will happen there? I guess some of it depends on Smith, how fit Smith is likely to be as well. So that's another one that you could kind of say it hasn't totally not worked, but I wouldn't surprise me if something moved there. But we'll see. But generally speaking, I think outside of that, it's not a bad nucleus that we're adding to.
Yeah, Middlemass was a revelation at last game, wasn't he, Rob? And we all thought, oh, where's he been? I guess Holman would be another attractive proposition to people outside. But Drynan obviously is the one you'd look at as, I mean, he admitted in the fans forum at Holloway that, you know, if an offer came in, it's up to the lad, really. If it was a big offer and an opportunity to move, then it would be there. So how would you view that?
Well, I know it's very difficult when it comes to retainment and recruitment at this level when somebody comes knocking. I don't think any of us are unwise to that. But you can also point to the fact that Aaron Drynan signed a new contract. So he's clearly committed to the club. That's not to say that there won't be bids on the table that might be of interest to him that comes through over the course of this summer. And I think we've probably all accepted the fact that if a decent offer comes in, I don't think there's any doubt that we wouldn't stand in his way, which would leave us with trying to build our future, I'm guessing, around the likes of Holman as our key striker for next season, alongside whatever else recruitment can be done in the summer. But that retained list that of people under contract, I was thinking more when you were reading it out of the areas that we need to improve based on the players that we've still got. Andrew's already alluded to the fact that we're light on centre-backs, although we have two there that were read out that didn't get enough game time in my mind over the course of the season, which
would one be Mbete?
Mbete would be one, and but James Ball would be another, because I thought he would get more game time than he actually got. And maybe there's a bit of work to be done there. But central midfield and the wide areas are real areas of weakness for us, certainly in the second half of the season. We lamented the passing of Nambi Offabor, but we never replaced him. And obviously, if we can get proper centre-backs in the building, which means that Ollie Clark can be that central midfield player all through the season, then maybe that's one of our spaces taken up for next season. But he was woefully short of alternatives in that area, and he was filled with players who were either converted into that position, like Tom Nichols, or players who don't have that tackling ability, like Darren Oldacre. So, as you say, Middlemass impressed us all on the last day without a shadow of a doubt. He looked a real player, but he's not one of those tackling midfielders either.
No.
So he's another player that doesn't fit into that category. So we definitely have a shortage of options in that area. And with Ola Kigby going back, he literally was our wide man, wasn't he? Yeah, we've still got Joe Snowden to work that right side if Ian Holloway can find the proper setup to play him as a wide man. But we were desperately lacking in wide options. So those are the two areas for me where there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the recruitment area over this summer.
Well, Sean says, going on season ticket sales so far, wouldn't be surprised if Drynan gets sold. I mean, 28 goals, Andrew, in all competitions, including 3 at Milton Keynes in a competition that we weren't eventually in. Do they still count, by the way?
I'd say they count.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Not that we're bitter at all about the Luton situation. But anyway, I mean, what are we talking in terms of money for Drynan? He had a fabulous season. He obviously played with Harry Smith at Leyton Orient, as we know, because they both destroyed us one night at Brisbane Road, didn't they? What are we talking about, we'd say, that would eventually tempt him away?
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult to figure out because he's 28, having just turned like 28 earlier this month. I did just look that up. I don't know if that's I don't have their birthday stapled up on my wall. Just
I thought they were all up there under the hat.
So, and he's kind of had a season that he's only had a half season of before, if you know what I mean. They had that good spell at Orient. So and the fact he signed a new contract means there's got to be a more substantial fee. So I think it's quite difficult to figure out quite what he'd be worth. Sort of asking the question, because maybe if he's a couple of years younger, then maybe someone would kind of leap on it and think we've seen enough there. I guess it comes down to whether how much his improvement is down to being at the centre of what we do and not out wide really. But I'm going a very long way around to saying I don't really know. Just because this sort of sudden surge of goals has come a bit more towards the back end of his career than the front end.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? The thing is, Ray, with transfer fees, they're all undisclosed these days anyway, aren't they? You never know what they actually are. But the thing is, Ray, that you'd look at that on cold light of day and say, well, in today's value, he's got to be worth at least $1 million, wouldn't you? With 28 goals in a season, wouldn't you hold out for that sort of money? Or are we talking 500, 600,000? What are we talking about?
Yeah. As Andrew said, it's really difficult to put your finger on it. I kind of, it'd definitely be the other side of $500,000. I would have thought, but whether it would go anywhere near $1 million, I think is up for debate. Really, I guess ultimately it's what people are willing to pay as well, and it's who wants him for their system. Yeah.
Go on,
so I was going to say I just remembered. Well, Salford offered 400,000, and they said no. Yeah. So and he signed a new contract. So perhaps if we take that as a sort of very minimum baseline, then maybe we look upwards from there.
Yeah, maybe Salford might look at him, Rob, if they go away, Salford, leave us alone, just disappear, go away.
Stick another note on it then, and then start talking to us.
Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee. I mean, you look at Harry McCurdy and his glorious season; he's never been able to replicate. You would hope that Drynan can, Rob, replicate what he did last season. I mean, it wasn't just his goals, was it? It was his work rate as well. It was exceptional.
Yeah, and we can't, as much as we look at the way that the season unfolded and how it ended for us, we can't lose sight of the fact that Aaron Drynan was at his best when he was alongside Paul Glatzel, because he was the one who was doing a lot of work alongside him, and between them, they were beginning to run teams ragged. Yeah. You could argue that the goals that Aaron Drynan scored were made for him, a lot of them, by the fact that Glatzel was in and around him or taking other players elsewhere. So it's the same as anything else with a centre forward. You've got to be in the right team to give you the chances to score goals. And I'm not taking anything away from Aaron Drynan's achievements from last season, because his strike rate was exceptional. But if you go to another team and they don't play to your strengths, all of a sudden a very good striker can look very poor. And we've seen it happen many times in many different clubs. So you've always got to be wary of that. And I think the very nature of the fact that he's got a few more years on the clock than some of the forwards who've departed here over the years, maybe he'll be a little bit wiser with his choices. And he will think about, am I going to a club that are going to give me the opportunities and the chances that I got when I was here last season? And are Swindon going to have the team that create the chances that I had last season? Because he might look at the last 3 months and think, hang on a minute, the goals dried up for me.
Yeah.
Why did they dry up? So there's lots and lots of things to think about there, I think. But we all know that we'll be a much better side next season if Aaron Drynen's still here. So what would worry me more is if suddenly a bid for Aaron Drynen comes in on the 31st of August, when we've got no time to react to it.
Well, that dreaded transfer window, which we all loathe and detest, basically. Salford paid 600,000 for that player from Fleetwood, based on nothing. So got to be $1 million, even though he can't head a ball. Did he score many headers? Did he score any winning? I can't remember. We're scratching our head, literally.
I think he did get. Did he get one at Salford? I think.
Wasn't the MK Dons hat trick a perfect hat trick?
Oh, yeah, because of the corners from Billy Bowden.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
there's a couple of headers in there.
Yeah. Billy Bowden's corner. Yeah, flicked on. Darren's not renewing. Says 450 quid. No, thank you for a season ticket. But then Sean says, would you guys pay 590 for season ticket in League One? That's what our dear friends down the road on the A420 are charging. My mate just messaged me. They are fuming. 590 quid to watch a team with yellow shirts on.
This is the issue, though, isn't it, Vic? And this is what we see. We all want to be up the divisions, but if you suddenly found yourself in the Championship, you're having to pay big money for players. And you're therefore having to fleece the fans that little bit more because you haven't got that money coming through the door.
Absolutely.
So you can't immediately reduce it by 150 quid or whatever it might be to get yourself back to parity with everyone else, because that's going to impact even more on what squad you're going to have. So you are caught between the rock and a hard place when you put your prices up, because it's very difficult to then turn around and justify putting them back down again without worsening the output that's going to be on the pitch.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm glad you could hear me. Unfortunately, Shane couldn't earlier. It was a bit weird. It was a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest where there's a Luxembourg panel there. Anyway, we got through it, and it was wonderful to have Shane Hewlett on, who is a magnificent example to anybody, I think. So thank you all very much indeed. Thanks, Ray, for hosting.
Yeah.
I believe Chris will be back next week, unless she's off at some other theatre thing. I don't know what she's doing. But thank you all very much indeed. We will be back next week. I've no idea what we'll be doing, but hey, that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? And Fools Rush In, which Halsey and I were on last week, will be on at 9 o'clock. So
you're safe from at least me this week. So
you're not on double shift again tonight? No. Is there a Moonraker pod at all?
I think they'll be irregular during the off season, but they will happen. But I don't quite know when.
Okay, fair.
I think they will happen as things happen.
As things happen. Lovely. All right, then. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. We'll see you again next week.
Yeah, see you soon. Yep.